것들 존나 따드네! 아저씨, 장난한 겁니다. 아니, 진정하시고 가세요.
This cold-blooded, no-nonsense man is South Korea's most notorious serial killer. At just 5 years old, he was abandoned by his biological parents. His adoptive father turned out to be a violent abuser, regularly beating his wife and son. To end their suffering, Tae-soo drugged his adoptive father's drink and then murdered him in cold blood. That act planted a deep fear in his brother Ik-sang, who soon abandoned Tae-soo too. Left alone once more, Tae-soo transformed into a full-fledged serial killer. He burned the bodies of his victims in a crematorium, ground the ashes into powder, and mixed them into clay to craft pottery. Each elegant piece represented a life lost, and he even labeled them with the victims' names. Years later, Ji-sang came looking for Tae-soo once again. The reason? His uncle had sexually harassed a female employee. The woman had secretly filmed the entire assault. She then blackmailed Ik-sang's uncle, demanding 300 million won or she'd go public with the footage. Desperate to protect his reputation, the uncle gave Ik-sang the money to retrieve the girl's phone and make the problem disappear. But Ik-sang, drowning in debt, used the ransom to pay off his creditors instead. However, the task his uncle had given him still had to be done. So, out of options, Ik-sang turned to Tae-soo for help. Despite being a ruthless killer, Tae-soo yearned for family. He had always seen Ik-sang as his brother and would do anything for him. Ik-sang merely complained that a couple was being too loud, and Tae-soo immediately slaughtered them both. The next morning, following Ik-sang's instructions, Tae-soo went to the female employee's apartment.
어제도 한 분 오더니 왜 그래요 정말? 돈은요?
돈 얘긴 모르겠고요. 그냥 휴대폰만 주시면 됩니다.
가주세요.
이 문 닫으면 당신 죽어요.
But the girl, unfazed by Tae-soo's threats, slammed the door in his face. But what she didn't expect was that Tae-soo always follows through on his word. Inside the house, a young girl was washing dishes when she suddenly heard a strange noise outside. As she stepped forward to check, the door suddenly burst open and a pair of cold, piercing eyes locked onto her.
엄마는?
없는데요.
둘이 사니?
Unable to get the phone, Tae-soo had no choice but to leave with Nari. When Tae-soo later found out that Ik-sang had pocketed the ransom money, he was furious. To settle things, he demanded that Ik-sang hand over the full amount immediately. Back at his home, Tae-soo didn't kill Nari. Instead, he invited her to play a twisted game. He told Nari, before he finished a bottle of red wine, she had to run and escape as fast as possible. If he caught her again, there would be no mercy, and she couldn't ask anyone for help if she did. They'd die too. With a chilling go, Tae-soo launched the game, and Nari bolted. While on the run, Nari crossed paths with two sisters who only had each other to rely on. To protect them, she lied saying she was just lost and looking for her sister. Bok-soon, the mentally challenged older sister, gently comforted Nari and promised to take her to the police in the morning. But the sisters had no idea that this fragile-looking girl was about to bring death to their doorstep. The next morning, they set off toward the police station with Nari in tow. But not long after they left, Bok-soon realized she forgot her jacket. She returned home alone, leaving her younger sister to continue on with Nari. Tragically, just after Bok-soon left, they ran into Tae-soo in the fog. When Bok-soon returned, all she found was her sister's backpack lying on the ground. As she frantically looked around, her sister's terrified screams echoed from deep in the woods. Sensing danger, Bok-soon sprinted into the forest. Just as her sister was about to suffocate, Bok-soon grabbed a rock and smashed it into Tae-soo's head, knocking him out cold. Bok-soon quickly carried her sister on her back and ran toward the hospital, but with her limited stamina, she didn't get far before she had to stop. Thankfully, they had already made it out of the forest. Thinking they were finally safe from Tae-soo, Bok-soon laid her sister down beneath a large tree and ran off to look for help. But not long after she left, Tae-soo, who had regained consciousness, found her sister. By the time Bok-soon returned, her sister was already gone without a trace. Even the police who came with her brushed it off, dismissing her due to her intellectual disability. Since that day, Bok-soon had been haunted by nightmares every night. Then, one day, Nari, who had vanished for a long time, suddenly returned, filled with guilt. She confessed everything that had happened and even gave Boksoon Tae-soo's home address. Though Boksoon was mentally challenged, she knew she had to rescue her sister. To make sure the rescue went smoothly, she and Nari practiced stabbing techniques over and over, training to deliver a single fatal blow. What she didn't know, however, was that her sister had already been turned into one of Tae-soo's ceramic pieces. Meanwhile, Ek-sang was drowning in regret for ever asking Tae-soo for help. Tae-soo didn't even retrieve the phone before killing the female employee, and that made him absolutely furious. Worse still, Tae-soo had now found out that Ek-sang had kept the ransom money for himself. In desperation, Ek-sang contacted a gang and hired a hitman to help him eliminate Tae-soo once and for all. Backed by a professional killer, the usually timid Ek-sang suddenly grew bold, kicking over a table and acting like a tough guy. The hitman, hearing the noise, burst into action. Tae-soo and the hitman clashed fiercely, fighting from the upper floors all the way down to the basement. In the end, Tae-soo proved superior, driving his screwdriver straight through the hitman's neck. Watching his backup get slaughtered, Ik-sang panicked and ran to his car. He tried to start it, but no matter what, the engine wouldn't turn over. Meanwhile, Tae-soo, having finished off the hitman, was slowly approaching, with no escape and death closing in. Ik-sang realized he had no choice but to fight. Just as he gathered all his strength and was about to strike Tae-soo with the wrench, he was stopped. The ferocity in Tae-soo's eyes made Ik-sang tremble with fear. He had no idea what he could possibly do to make Tae-soo spare his life. But what caught him completely off guard was that Tae-soo didn't hurt him. Instead, he gave him a smile.
그만하자.
Yet Tae-soo's mercy didn't ease Ik-sang's fear. In fact, it only made him more terrified, because someone who feared absolutely nothing was far more unsettling. Meanwhile, after days of training with the blade, the two set out on their path of revenge. Led by Nari, they found their way to Tae-soo's home. Nari stayed outside to keep watch, while Boksoon quietly snuck inside to search for her sister. By chance, Boksoon ended up in the very room where Tae-soo crafted his pottery. When she opened the kiln, the sight of the unfinished ceramics inside stirred a strange sense of familiarity. Just as she was about to reach in and touch one, Nari shouted from outside Tae-soo was coming back. Boksoon immediately tensed up. She ran outside, poured the drug into Tae-soo's water, then hid before he entered the room. But just as he was about to take a sip, Tae-soo's sharp instincts kicked and he noticed the window was slightly ajar. As he stepped forward to close the window, he realized someone had been in his room. When he opened the window again, his eyes locked directly with a little girl outside Nari. Caught red-handed, Nari bolted. She ran up the mountain and camouflaged herself by covering her body with leaves. As Tae-soo walked right past her, she finally exhaled in relief. But in the very next second, Tae-soo doubled back, and just like that, Nari was captured by Tae-soo once again. To save her own life, Nari told Tae-soo she knew where her sister had hidden the phone. While Tae-soo followed her to retrieve it, Nari secretly scribbled the location on a note and tossed it to Boksoon. With Nari leading the way, Tae-soo successfully got his hands on the phone. He handed it over to Ik-sang, who casually thanked him and was about to get in his car and leave. But Tae-soo wasn't ready to let Ik-sang go that easily. He suggested bringing their adoptive mother along and having a meal together like a real family. To his dismay, Ik-sang, who didn't want to spend even one more second with Tae-soo, flat out refused. Furious, Tae-soo slammed his elbow into the car window, shattering it. Just then, Nari spotted Boksoon anxiously searching for her nearby. Seizing the moment, she dashed across the road while Tae-soo was distracted. By the time Tae-soo realized what was happening, Nari had already reunited with Boksoon. As they frantically fled, they ran into a group of soldiers. With the soldiers' help, the two finally escaped from Tae-soo's clutches, but their relief was short-lived. While passing through an intersection, they came face to face with Tae-soo again. Fortunately, the police station was nearby, so they sprinted inside just in time to avoid another confrontation. Tae-soo, standing outside, flashed a chilling smile before turning and walking away. Thinking they were finally safe inside the police station, the two of them sat down on a bench and drifted off to sleep. But Boksoon, who had eaten something bad, suddenly felt nauseous and ran to the bathroom to throw up. By the time she returned, Nari was already gone. The police told her that a man claiming to be Nari's uncle had taken her away, and he even left a note for Boksoon. Realizing Nari was in danger, Boksoon immediately flagged down a car and rushed to the address written on the note. Meanwhile, Iksang, now in possession of the phone, hatched a wild plan. He called his uncle and arranged to meet him at his mother's restaurant, telling him that if he wanted the phone back, he'd need to pay even more. Iksang also planted 4 hitmen inside the restaurant and asked his mother to invite Tae-soo over as well, planning to get rid of him once and for all. Longing for a sense of family, Tae-soo agreed without hesitation. When Tae-soo arrived, he sat down and began eating the meal his mother had prepared for him, completely unaware he was walking into a trap. But Iksang underestimated Tae-soo's instincts. The unnatural calm in the room made Tae-soo immediately suspicious. This was no ordinary family dinner.
내 뒤에 놈들 너무 조용하지 않아? 니들 나 없을 때 연습했지?
After swiftly taking out a few of the hitmen, Tae-soo calmly sat down between his mother and Iksang as if nothing had happened. Then he asked them how they planned to handle their family situation. His adoptive mother, desperate to save her own life, loudly scolded Iksang for setting Tae-soo up like this.
엄마.
Watching his mother put on such a show, Tae-soo couldn't help but laugh. Sensing the shift, the mother and son shamelessly tried to cozy up to Tae-soo, pretending to be one big happy family. But what they didn't realize was that one of the hitmen hadn't died yet. Clutching a heavy bone, the hitman started smashing it repeatedly into Tae-soo's head. His mother and Iksang, casting aside all their talk of family bonds, didn't lift a finger to help. They watched coldly as the beating continued. Only when Tae-soo's face was a bloody, unrecognizable mess did the hitman finally stop. Just as they were about to stuff Tae-soo's body into the trunk, they were shocked to find Nari already inside. Seeing such an adorable little girl, Iksang's mother suddenly decided she wanted to adopt her, but Iksang was firmly against it. While the two argued and tugged back and forth, the hitman beside them suddenly gasped for air and collapsed to the ground. Before Iksang and his mother could react, they saw the one person they never wanted to see again. Tae-soo, his face drenched in blood, was staring at them with those cold, piercing eyes. Looking at the mother and son who had tried to kill him, Tae-soo felt a deep sense of betrayal and disappointment. So when he shut the restaurant doors, the place instantly transformed into a slaughterhouse once more. After finishing off both mother and son, Tae-soo lifted Nari into the air, ready to kill her too. But just as Nari was about to stop breathing, Boksoon arrived following the address on the note. Thanks to her relentless training, her dagger struck Tae-soo's vital spot with deadly precision. Severely wounded, Tae-soo could no longer fight back. Boksoon climbed on top of him and wrapped her hands tightly around his throat. Moments later, Tae-soo took his final breath. Boksoon had avenged her sister at last. Now survivors of a nightmare, Boksoon and Nari held each other tightly. Just then, Iksang's uncle showed up at the scene, unfazed by the bloodshed. He calmly told Boksoon to hand over the phone. Boksoon wiped the phone clean against her clothes and handed it to him. In the end, she and Nari returned to the quiet mountain village and began a new life relying on each other to survive.
아니다. 코인한 년도